The air is thick with the clash of metal and the cries of warriors, a scene of chaos and desperation unfolding on a dusty plain. Shields splinter under the weight of arrows, and the ground trembles as chariots charge ahead, their wheels grinding against the earth. But amidst this chaos, something extraordinary is happening. Ancient generals are employing tactics so strange, so ingenious, that they defy the very logic of war. This is the art of war in ancient times, a world where creativity and cunning often triumphed over brute force. From flaming pigs to siege towers that seemed to defy gravity, the battlefields of the past were filled with ideas that still leave us in awe today. So, what drove these ancient minds to craft such bizarre strategies and weapons? And how did their ingenuity shape the course of history, leaving a legacy that echoes even in modern warfare? Join us as we step onto the battlefield, uncovering the strange, the unexpected, and the utterly brilliant tactics that defined ancient warfare. By the end of this journey, you'll see the art of war in a whole new light, not just as a fight for survival, but as a testament to human creativity and resilience. From the dawn of human civilization, conflict has been an inescapable part of our story. Long before the grand armies of empires clashed, warfare began as small-scale skirmishes between tribes. These early conflicts were often driven by the most basic human needs: food, water, and territory. Picture a world where survival hinged on the ability to defend your land or seize resources from others. In this primal setting, weapons were rudimentary: sharpened stones, wooden spears, and simple bows. But even in these early days, the seeds of strategy were being sown. Geography played a pivotal role in shaping how these early battles unfolded. Tribes living in dense forests relied on ambush tactics, using the terrain to their advantage. Meanwhile, those in open plains developed skills in ranged combat, perfecting the use of bows and slings to strike from a distance. The availability of resources also dictated the tools of war. Communities with access to flint or obsidian could craft sharper, deadlier weapons, giving them an edge over rivals armed with less durable materials. As societies grew more complex, so did their methods of warfare. The rise of city-states marked a turning point, transforming combat from sporadic raids into organized campaigns. These early urban centers, often centered around fertile river valleys like those of Mesopotamia and the Nile, had more to protect and more to gain. With larger populations and greater wealth, they could field more disciplined armies and invest in the development of advanced weaponry. Shields, helmets, and bronze-tipped spears became symbols of a new era, where warfare was no longer just about survival but about power and prestige. Culture, too, left its mark on the evolution of ancient combat. In some societies, warriors were revered as heroes, their exploits immortalized in songs and legends. This cultural valorization of battle drove the creation of specialized weapons and armor, designed not only for practicality but also to inspire fear and awe. The chariot, for example, became a status symbol as much as a battlefield tool, its use spreading from the steppes of Central Asia to the deserts of Egypt. This period of transition, from simple tribal skirmishes to the organized warfare of city-states, laid the groundwork for the strange and innovative tactics that would emerge in the centuries to come. It was a time of experimentation where necessity and ingenuity collided to create the first true instruments of war. And as we'll see, these early developments set the stage for some of the most bizarre and fascinating military strategies in history. Picture this: you're standing on a battlefield, the air thick with tension, when suddenly the enemy begins to scream in unison, a cacophony so terrifying it feels like the ground itself is shaking. This wasn't just noise, it was a weapon. Psychological warfare has been a cornerstone of ancient combat, often proving just as decisive as swords and shields. Armies didn't just rely on physical strength, they manipulated the minds of their enemies, using fear and deception to tip the scales in their favor. One of the most common tactics was the war cry. Tribes and armies across the ancient world would unleash deafening shouts, chants, or even animal noises to create chaos and confusion. The Celts, for example, were known for their terrifying battle cries, designed to make their enemies question their own courage. But it wasn't just about volume, it was about timing. A well-placed war cry at the moment of attack could shatter an opponent's morale before the first blow was even struck. Then there were the more unconventional methods, like the use of animal noises. Imagine facing an army that suddenly sounds like a pack of wolves or a flock of screeching birds. The Huns were masters of this, using eerie sounds to make their enemies believe they were facing something otherworldly. It wasn't just about intimidation, it was about sowing doubt. If you didn't know what you were up against, how could you possibly prepare? Perhaps one of the most brilliant and risky psychological tactics was the fake retreat. Armies like the Mongols perfected this art, luring their enemies into a false sense of victory. They would appear to flee, only to regroup and strike when their pursuers were scattered and overconfident. This wasn't just a trick, it was a masterclass in patience and precision. The psychological blow of realizing you've been outmaneuvered could be devastating, often leading to panic and disarray. These strategies weren't just effective in the moment, they left a lasting mark on military theory. Leaders like Sun Tzu and Alexander the Great studied and refined these techniques, recognizing that the mind was just as important as the body in warfare. Even today, the principles of psychological warfare, disruption, misdirection, and intimidation remain central to military strategy, proving that the art of war is as much about outthinking your opponent as it is about outfighting them. So, the next time you hear about a battle won through sheer force, remember this: sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a blade or a bow. It's the fear and uncertainty planted in the minds of the enemy. Psychological warfare wasn't just a tool of ancient armies, it was a testament to the creativity and cunning of human strategy. The Assyrian Empire, a powerhouse of the ancient world, wielded fire not just as a tool but as a weapon of terror and destruction. Among their most feared innovations were flaming arrows and incendiary devices, which they used to devastating effect on the battlefield. Picture this: a rain of fire descending upon enemy fortifications, engulfing wooden walls and spreading chaos among defending troops. The Assyrians didn't just aim to destroy, they sought to demoralize, leaving their enemies paralyzed by fear and confusion. So, how did they achieve such a fearsome tactic? The secret lay in their mastery of materials and chemistry. The Assyrians treated their arrows with a mixture of pitch, sulfur, and other flammable substances, creating a weapon that could ignite on impact. These arrows weren't just dipped in fire, they were engineered to burn consistently, even in adverse conditions. When launched in volleys, they turned entire enemy encampments into infernos, breaking the will of those who dared to resist. But the Assyrians didn't stop at arrows. They also developed larger incendiary devices, such as firepots and clay grenades filled with flammable materials. These were hurled by catapults or thrown by hand, targeting not just fortifications but also enemy supplies and morale. Imagine the psychological impact of seeing your food stores, weapons, and even your shelter consumed by flames. It wasn't just physical damage, it was a calculated blow to the enemy's spirit. Technological innovation played a crucial role in the Assyrians' dominance. Their ability to harness fire as a weapon gave them a tactical edge, allowing them to conquer and control vast territories. This wasn't just about brute force, it was about strategy, precision, and the psychological warfare that came with it. The Assyrians understood that fear could be as powerful as any blade or shield, and they wielded it with terrifying efficiency. What's fascinating is how these ancient techniques laid the groundwork for future military advancements. The Assyrians' use of fire as a weapon wasn't just a flash in the pan, it was a turning point in the history of warfare, influencing strategies and technologies for centuries to come. Their legacy reminds us that innovation, even in the most brutal forms, can reshape the course of history. Few sights on the ancient battlefield could match the sheer spectacle and terror of war elephants charging into the fray. These towering beasts, often armored and carrying archers or spearmen, were not just weapons of war but psychological tools designed to unnerve the enemy. Among the most famous examples of their use comes from the Carthaginian general Hannibal, whose daring crossing of the Alps with a force that included war elephants remains one of history's most audacious military maneuvers. But what made these creatures so effective, and why did Hannibal go to such extraordinary lengths to bring them into his campaign against Rome? The advantages of war elephants were undeniable. Their size alone made them intimidating. Imagine standing in a formation, only to see a wall of living, breathing tanks barreling toward you. Elephants could trample infantry, break through enemy lines, and even scatter cavalry, as horses often panicked at the sight and smell of them. For Hannibal, these creatures were more than just a tactical asset. They were symbols of power and dominance, meant to strike fear into the hearts of his Roman adversaries. But their use came with significant challenges. Elephants were difficult to control, especially in the chaos of battle. If they became frightened or enraged, they could turn on their own troops, causing as much harm to their side as to the enemy. Hannibal's journey across the Alps with his elephants is a testament to both his ingenuity and the sheer determination of his forces. The harsh conditions of the mountain pass were brutal for men, let alone massive animals accustomed to warmer climates. Many of the elephants did not survive the journey, succumbing to cold, exhaustion, or treacherous terrain. Yet the mere fact that Hannibal succeeded in bringing even a few of these beasts into Italy speaks volumes about his strategic vision. When the surviving elephants finally appeared on the battlefield, their impact was immediate. Roman soldiers who had never faced such creatures before were thrown into disarray. The psychological edge Hannibal gained was as valuable as the physical destruction his elephants caused. But war elephants were not invincible. Opposing armies soon learned to counter them, using tactics like flaming projectiles or creating obstacles to disrupt their charge. Over time, as weapons and strategies evolved, the role of elephants in warfare diminished. Yet for a brief moment in history, they were the ultimate weapon, a blend of brute force and psychological warfare that left an indelible mark on the ancient world. Hannibal's use of these creatures wasn't just about winning battles, it was about reshaping the very nature of fear and power on the battlefield, and in that he succeeded beyond measure. One of the most fearsome weapons in the arsenal of the Byzantine Empire was a substance so powerful, so destructive, that it struck terror into the hearts of their enemies. Known as Greek fire, this mysterious liquid was a game-changer in naval warfare, capable of burning even on water and turning the tides of battle in an instant. But what made it so devastating, and why does its exact composition remain one of history's greatest unsolved secrets? Greek fire was first used in the 7th century during the reign of Emperor Constantine IV. The Byzantines, facing relentless invasions and naval attacks, needed something extraordinary to protect their empire. Enter Greek fire, a weapon so effective that it could be sprayed from ships, igniting enemy vessels and creating walls of flame that seemed almost supernatural. Imagine the sight, waves of fire spreading across the water, consuming everything in their path. For the Byzantines, it was a weapon of survival. For their enemies, it was pure terror. The exact formula for Greek fire has been lost to time, Though historians and scientists have speculated for centuries, some believe it was a mixture of petroleum, quicklime, and sulfur, while others suggest it included ingredients like pine resin or naphtha. What made it truly unique was its ability to burn on water, a property that baffled opponents and gave the Byzantines a significant psychological edge. The flames were nearly impossible to extinguish, as water only seemed to fuel the inferno. Ships caught in its path were often doomed, leaving enemy fleets helpless against its destructive power. But Greek fire wasn't just a tool of destruction. It was a symbol of Byzantine ingenuity and resilience. The weapon played a crucial role in defending Constantinople during multiple sieges, including the Arab sieges of the 7th and 8th centuries. With Greek fire, the Byzantines could repel larger, more powerful forces, holding their ground against overwhelming odds. It became a defining feature of their military strategy, a secret weapon that kept their enemies at bay for centuries. The mystery surrounding Greek fire adds to its allure. The Byzantines guarded its formula closely, passing it down through a select few and ensuring it remained a closely held state secret. Even today, historians and chemists continue to debate its composition, though no one has been able to fully recreate it. This secrecy only adds to the weapon's legendary status, making it one of the most fascinating and enigmatic tools of ancient warfare. Greek fire wasn't just a weapon, it was a testament to the power of innovation in the face of adversity. For the Byzantines, it represented hope, survival, and the unyielding spirit of an empire determined to endure. Its legacy lives on, not just in the annals of history, but in the countless stories of its fiery might that continue to captivate us today. Buried beneath the earth for over 2 millennia, the Terracotta Army stands as one of history's most astonishing archaeological discoveries. But it's not just the thousands of life-sized clay soldiers that captivate historians, it's the weapons they were buried with. These arms, crafted with precision and purpose, offer a glimpse into the military genius of the Qin Dynasty and the strategies that helped unify ancient China. Among the arsenal unearthed, the crossbows stand out as a marvel of ancient engineering. Unlike earlier, cruder designs, the Qin crossbows featured bronze triggers and standardized components, allowing for mass production and consistent performance on the battlefield. This innovation wasn't just about firepower, it was about efficiency. A Qin soldier could reload and fire with remarkable speed, giving their armies a decisive edge in combat. Equally impressive were the bronze swords, some of which still gleamed with a sharp edge when discovered. These weapons were made using an advanced metallurgical technique that combined strength and flexibility, preventing them from shattering in battle. The craftsmanship was so refined that many of these swords bear inscriptions detailing their production, a testament to the Qin Dynasty's meticulous approach to warfare. But why were these weapons buried with the Terracotta Army? For the Qin, it wasn't just about honoring the dead, it was a statement of power. Each weapon symbolized the might of a dynasty that had conquered warring states and unified China under a single rule. The crossbows and swords weren't just tools of war, they were symbols of a military strategy built on discipline, innovation, and overwhelming force. The variety of weapons also reveals how the Qin Dynasty approached warfare. From long-range crossbows to close combat swords, each weapon was designed for a specific purpose, reflecting a highly organized and strategic military. This wasn't just an army of brute strength, it was an army of precision and planning, where every soldier and every weapon had a role to play. As we examine these ancient arms, we're not just looking at tools of war, we're uncovering the story of a dynasty that reshaped history. The Terracotta Army's weapons remind us that the Qin's success wasn't just about numbers or might. It was about ingenuity, planning, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. And in their silent, underground vigil, these weapons continue to tell the tale of an empire that changed the world. The Roman legions were masters of battlefield tactics, but one of their most iconic strategies was the Testudo formation, literally meaning tortoise in Latin. Picture this, a tightly packed group of soldiers, their rectangular shields interlocked above their heads and along their sides, forming a nearly impenetrable armored shell. This was not just a defensive maneuver, it was a testament to Roman ingenuity and the discipline that made their armies nearly unstoppable. The Testudo formation was especially effective during sieges, where soldiers advancing toward fortified walls faced a relentless barrage of arrows, rocks, and other projectiles. By locking their shields together, they created a mobile barrier that could absorb the brunt of enemy attacks. It wasn't just about survival. It was about advancing steadily, inch by inch, until they reached their objective. This formation allowed the Romans to breach heavily defended positions with minimal casualties, a feat that left their enemies in awe. But the Testudo wasn't just a practical solution, it was also a symbol of Roman unity and precision. Each soldier had to move in perfect unison, trusting their comrades to hold the line. One misstep, one shield out of place, and the entire formation could collapse. This level of coordination required rigorous training and an unwavering commitment to the collective over the individual. It's no wonder that the Testudo became a powerful emblem of Roman military prowess, embodying both their tactical brilliance and their cultural values. What made the Testudo truly remarkable was its adaptability. While it was primarily used in sieges, the formation also proved effective in open battles, particularly when facing enemy archers. The Romans didn't just rely on brute force, they combined strategy, innovation, and discipline to outthink and outmaneuver their foes. The Testudo wasn't just a shield wall, it was a statement of superiority, a reminder that the Roman legions were as much about brains as they were about brawn. Even today, the Testudo formation stands as a striking example of how ancient armies turned simple tools, shields, in this case into game-changing weapons. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the individual but in the collective. And for the Romans, that collective strength was the key to building one of the most formidable empires in history. The Persian Immortals were more than just an elite fighting force. They were masters of mind games. Named for their seemingly endless numbers, this 10,000-strong unit of highly trained soldiers struck fear into their enemies with their precision, discipline, and above all, their reputation for invincibility. But what truly set them apart wasn't just their skill with weapons or their polished armor. It was their ability to manipulate their opponent's psychology. They didn't just fight battles, they orchestrated them. One of their most effective tactics was the feigned retreat. Imagine facing an army that appears to crumble under pressure, only to realize too late that their withdrawal was a carefully planned ruse. The Immortals would lure their enemies into overconfidence, drawing them into a false sense of security. Once their opponents were stretched thin and disorganized, the Immortals would pivot, regroup, and strike with devastating force. This wasn't just a military strategy, it was psychological warfare designed to break the enemy's spirit before the first real blow was even struck. Their reputation played a crucial role in this. The very idea of the Immortals, a force that never seemed to dwindle, always replenished to its full strength, was enough to unsettle even the most seasoned warriors. Opponents would question their own ability to win, doubting whether they could ever overcome such an indomitable foe. This psychological edge often gave the Immortals the upper hand before the battle even began. But even the strongest reputations come with a cost. Over time, their aura of invincibility became a double-edged sword. Enemies who learned to exploit this reputation could use it against them, turning their perceived strength into a weakness. For instance, some adversaries began to study their patterns, recognizing the feigned retreats for what they were. By resisting the urge to chase, these enemies could disrupt the Immortals' carefully laid plans. Others targeted the Immortals' morale, spreading rumors or creating situations that challenged their unshakable image. The lesson here is clear: even the most formidable forces are not without vulnerabilities. The Immortals' tactics remind us that warfare is as much about perception as it is about physical strength, a lesson that echoes through history even to this day. The Scythian horse archers were a force unlike any other in the ancient world, a whirlwind of speed, precision, and cunning. Picture this: an army of warriors on horseback, galloping across the steppes with bows in hand, striking their enemies with relentless accuracy before vanishing into the horizon. This was the signature style of the Scythians, a nomadic people who turned the art of mounted archery into a devastating weapon of war. What made the Scythians so formidable was their unparalleled mobility. Unlike traditional armies bound by heavy infantry or slow-moving supply lines, the Scythians carried everything they needed on horseback. They could traverse vast distances in a fraction of the time it took their enemies, striking swiftly and retreating before their opponents could even mount a defense. This hit-and-run approach wasn't just effective, it was psychological warfare. Imagine being an ancient soldier watching a cloud of dust on the horizon, only to realize too late that you are already surrounded by arrows raining down from every direction. The Scythians didn't just fight battles, they shattered morale. Their mastery of the composite bow was another key to their success. These bows, made from layers of wood, horn, and sinew, were compact yet powerful, capable of launching arrows with deadly accuracy even at full gallop. Scythian archers trained from childhood to shoot with precision while riding at breakneck speeds, making them almost impossible to pin down. Their arrows, often tipped with iron or bone, could pierce armor and bring down even the most heavily protected foes. But it wasn't just their weapons or tactics that made the Scythians so feared. It was their ability to adapt. They knew the terrain of the steppes intimately, using it to their advantage in every battle. They could lure enemies into traps, ambush them in narrow passes, or simply outlast them by retreating into the vast, open plains where no opposing army could follow. The Scythians didn't just conquer land, they controlled it, using their speed and skill to dominate regions stretching from the Black Sea to the edges of China. In the end, the Scythian horse archers weren't just warriors. They were artists of war, turning the chaos of battle into a carefully orchestrated dance of destruction. Their legacy lives on as one of the most effective and feared fighting forces in history, a testament to the power of innovation, adaptability, and sheer audacity on the battlefield. Alexander the Great's conquests are legendary, but his victories weren't just the result of brilliant strategy or the bravery of his troops. They were also a testament to his mastery of military engineering. Among his most impressive innovations were the siege towers, colossal wooden structures designed to breach the walls of heavily fortified cities. These towering machines weren't just feats of engineering. They were psychological weapons, striking fear into the hearts of defenders who believed their walls were unbreakable. The design of Alexander's siege towers was nothing short of revolutionary. Built to match or even exceed the height of city walls, these structures were essentially mobile fortresses on wheels. Soldiers inside were protected by thick wooden panels, often covered in wet hides to shield against flaming arrows. At the top of the tower, a drawbridge could be lowered onto the enemy's walls, allowing troops to storm directly into the heart of the city. It was a brutal and effective tactic, turning the defenders' own fortifications against them. But the true genius of these towers lay in their adaptability. Alexander's engineers tailored each structure to the specific challenges of the city they were targeting. For example, during the siege of Tyre, a city surrounded by water, Alexander's forces built siege towers on ships, combining naval and land-based warfare in a way that had never been seen before. This flexibility not only showcased his tactical brilliance, but also demonstrated how innovation could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. Yet, siege towers weren't just about brute force. They also played a psychological role. Imagine being a defender, watching these massive structures slowly rolling toward your walls, knowing that once they reached you, there was little you could do to stop them. The sheer scale and ingenuity of these machines shattered morale long before the first soldier set foot on the walls. Alexander's use of siege towers changed the game in ancient warfare. They weren't just tools of destruction, they were symbols of his determination to achieve the impossible. By combining engineering prowess with bold strategy, Alexander proved that even the strongest defenses could be broken, paving the way for one of history's greatest empires. The battering ram, one of the most iconic siege weapons in history, began as a simple tool of brute force. Picture a group of warriors in ancient times, using nothing more than a large log to break down a fortified gate. It was raw, unrefined, and effective, but far from perfect. Over centuries, however, this basic concept evolved into a highly sophisticated machine of war, capable of bringing even the strongest walls to their knees. Early battering rams were little more than heavy logs carried by hand or suspended by ropes. Yet, even in their most primitive form, they were devastatingly effective. The sheer weight and momentum of the log, driven by coordinated force, could splinter wooden gates and crack weaker stone structures. But as fortifications grew stronger, so too did the need for innovation. Enter the wheeled battering ram. By mounting the log on a mobile frame, attackers could deliver more consistent and powerful strikes, while also protecting the operators from enemy fire. This marked the first major leap in the ram's evolution, but the real game changer came with the addition of protective coverings. Early siege engineers realized that exposing the ram and its operators to arrows, boiling oil, and other defensive measures was a recipe for disaster. So they began building wooden sheds, often covered in wet animal hides, to shield the ram and its crew. These sheds, known as tortoises, allowed armies to approach fortified walls with greater safety and precision. The hides, soaked in water, provided an additional layer of protection against fire, making the ram nearly unstoppable. As time went on, the design of the battering ram became even more advanced. Metal tips were added to the log, increasing its durability and penetration power. Some rams were suspended from chains within their protective sheds, allowing them to swing with greater force. Others were mounted on pivots, enabling operators to direct the ram's strikes with pinpoint accuracy. In some cases, multiple rams were used simultaneously, targeting different sections of a wall to overwhelm defenders. Perhaps the most impressive iteration of the battering ram was the siege tower ram, which combined the destructive power of the ram with the height and mobility of a siege tower. These towering structures allowed attackers to breach walls at multiple levels, creating chaos and confusion among the defenders. With each innovation, the battering ram became not just a tool of destruction, but a symbol of ingenuity and adaptation in the face of ever-evolving defenses. The evolution of the battering ram is a testament to humanity's relentless drive to overcome obstacles. From its humble beginnings as a simple log to its transformation into a complex machine of war, it reflects the creativity and determination of ancient engineers. Each improvement in design and materials brought new challenges and opportunities, shaping the course of history in ways that still resonate today. Chariots were more than just vehicles of war. They were symbols of power, prestige, and innovation in the ancient world. Originating in Mesopotamia around 2000 BC, these horse-drawn machines quickly became a dominant force on the battlefield. By the time of the New Kingdom in Egypt, chariots had evolved into a key military asset, used not only for their speed but also for their ability to strike fear into the hearts of enemies. Imagine the sight of a line of chariots charging across the desert, their wheels kicking up clouds of dust, archers poised to unleash a deadly rain of arrows. It was a spectacle designed to intimidate as much as to destroy. The advantages of chariots were undeniable. Their speed allowed armies to maneuver quickly, outflank opponents, and retreat before the enemy could counterattack. In open terrain like the flat plains of Egypt or the rolling hills of the Near East, chariots were nearly unstoppable. They also served as mobile platforms for archers who could rain down arrows while staying out of reach of infantry. But chariots weren't just tools of war, they were also deeply ingrained in the culture of ancient societies. In Egypt, for example, pharaohs were often depicted riding chariots in both battle and ceremonial processions, symbolizing their divine right to rule and their connection to the gods. Yet, despite their impressive capabilities, chariots had their limitations. They were expensive to build and maintain, requiring skilled craftsmen to construct the lightweight frames and skilled drivers to handle the horses. Chariots were also highly dependent on terrain. In rough or wooded areas, they became cumbersome and ineffective, and as warfare evolved, so did the challenges. By the time of the Assyrian Empire, cavalry riders on horseback began to outpace chariots in terms of flexibility and cost-effectiveness. Horses no longer needed to pull heavy chariots. Instead, they could carry soldiers directly into battle, offering greater range and adaptability. The decline of the chariot marked a turning point in military history. As cavalry rose to prominence, the once mighty chariot faded into obscurity, becoming more of a ceremonial relic than a battlefield weapon. But the legacy of the chariot endures. It wasn't just a tool of war, it was a testament to human ingenuity and the relentless drive to innovate in the face of conflict. From the sands of Egypt to the plains of Mesopotamia, the chariot story is a reminder of how technology and strategy shaped the course of history. The Spartan Phalanx was more than just a battle formation. It was a living, breathing machine of war designed to dominate the battlefield with precision and discipline. Picture this, a tight-knit wall of bronze shields, each one overlapping with the next, creating an impenetrable barrier. Every soldier or hoplite stood shoulder to shoulder with their comrades, their spears protruding forward like the teeth of a predator ready to strike. This formation wasn't just about brute strength. It was a masterpiece of coordination and trust, where every man relied on the man beside him to hold the line. At its core, the phalanx's strength lay in its unity. The overlapping shields, known as the aspes, protected not just the individual soldier but also the man to his left, creating a sense of mutual dependence. This interdependence was the lifeblood of the phalanx. Break one part of the line, and the entire formation could crumble, but the Spartans trained relentlessly to prevent that from happening. Their discipline was legendary, drilled into them from childhood. They didn't just move as one, they thought as one, acting with a single purpose: to overwhelm their enemies through sheer cohesion and force. Yet, for all its effectiveness, the phalanx wasn't invincible. Its greatest strength, its rigid structure, was also its Achilles heel. The formation required flat, open terrain to function properly. On uneven ground or in tight spaces, the line could falter, leaving gaps that clever enemies could exploit. And while the phalanx excelled in frontal assaults, it was vulnerable to attacks from the flanks or rear. Without cavalry or skirmishers to protect its sides, the formation could be outmaneuvered by more flexible forces. Despite these limitations, the Spartan phalanx left an indelible mark on military history. Its influence extended far beyond ancient Greece, shaping the tactics of empires like Rome and even inspiring modern military strategies. The idea of disciplined, tightly coordinated units became a cornerstone of warfare, proving that sometimes the whole is far greater than the sum of its parts. The phalanx wasn't just a formation, it was a testament to what humans can achieve when they move together, united by a common purpose. The catapult stands as one of the most iconic and devastating weapons of ancient warfare, a marvel of engineering that reshaped the dynamics of siege battles. But what made these machines so revolutionary? To understand their impact, we need to look at their origins and the ingenuity behind their design. The earliest catapults, like the ballista, were essentially giant crossbows, capable of hurling heavy bolts or stones with remarkable accuracy. Over time, these evolved into more sophisticated designs, such as the onager and the trebuchet, each with its own unique mechanics and destructive potential. The ballista, for instance, relied on torsion power, think tightly wound ropes or sinews that, when released, unleashed a force strong enough to send projectiles flying hundreds of meters. These were precision instruments, often used to target enemy troops or break through wooden defenses. On the other hand, the onager, nicknamed the Wild Donkey for its powerful kick, used a single arm and a sling to launch heavier stones or even flaming projectiles. It was less about precision and more about raw destructive force, making it ideal for battering down walls or creating chaos within enemy ranks. But the real game changer was the trebuchet. This towering machine, often requiring dozens of men to operate, used a counterweight system to fling massive projectiles with incredible range and power. Unlike earlier catapults, the trebuchet could launch heavier payloads, including boulders, barrels of burning pitch, or even diseased animals to spread terror and sickness among besieged populations. Its introduction marked a turning point in siege warfare, giving armies the ability to breach even the most fortified cities. The strategic value of catapults cannot be overstated. They shifted the balance of power in ancient conflicts, allowing smaller forces to challenge much larger ones by neutralizing the advantages of fortified positions. Imagine being a defender, watching helplessly as a barrage of stones and fire rained down on your walls, knowing that no amount of preparation could fully shield you from such relentless assault. Catapults didn't just destroy physical barriers, they shattered morale, often forcing cities to surrender without a prolonged fight. What's fascinating is how these machines were adapted and refined across different cultures. The Romans, for example, perfected the ballista, using it not just in sieges but also in open field battles. Meanwhile, the Chinese developed their own versions, like the traction trebuchet, which used human power instead of counterweights. Each culture brought its own innovations, showcasing the universal recognition of the catapult's power and versatility. So, what made catapults so effective? It wasn't just their ability to destroy, it was their psychological impact. The sight of these massive machines being assembled outside a city's walls struck fear into the hearts of defenders. They were a symbol of technological superiority, a reminder that no fortress was truly impregnable. And as we'll see in the next section, this psychological warfare was just as important as the physical destruction they caused. The use of poisoned weapons in ancient Indian warfare reveals a fascinating, albeit darker, side of military strategy. Unlike the straightforward clash of swords or the thunderous charge of elephants, poisoning weapons introduced a stealthy and psychological element to combat. Warriors would coat their arrows, daggers, and even spears with potent toxins derived from plants, animals, or minerals. These substances, often undetectable to the naked eye, could incapacitate or kill an enemy with just a single wound. Can you imagine the fear that must have gripped soldiers knowing even a minor injury could spell their doom? What's particularly intriguing is how this practice intersected with cultural beliefs and ethics. In ancient India, warfare was often governed by codes of honor, such as those outlined in texts like the Mahabharata. Yet, the use of poison blurred these lines, creating a moral dilemma. Was it justified to use such tactics if it meant securing victory? Some saw it as a pragmatic necessity, while others viewed it as a violation of dharma or righteous duty. This tension between strategy and morality offers a glimpse into the complex mindset of ancient Indian warriors. The effectiveness of poisoned weapons was undeniable. In battles where numbers or sheer strength weren't enough, poison became the great equalizer. A small, well-trained force could neutralize a much larger army by targeting key leaders or spreading chaos. For example, the use of venom-coated arrows could cripple an enemy's command structure, leaving their forces disorganized and vulnerable, but this came at a cost. The psychological toll on both sides was immense. Soldiers had to grapple with the knowledge that their survival hinged not just on skill, but on avoiding even the tiniest scratch. Interestingly, the legacy of these tactics extended beyond the battlefield. Ancient Indian texts often mention the preparation and administration of poisons, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of chemistry and botany. Warriors and healers alike had to master the dual arts of creating and counteracting these deadly substances. This duality highlights the ingenuity of ancient Indian societies, where knowledge of nature's most dangerous elements was wielded as both a weapon and a tool for survival. As we reflect on this chapter of history, it's worth considering how these practices shaped the evolution of warfare. The use of poisoned weapons wasn't just about gaining an edge in battle. It was a testament to human creativity and adaptability in the face of conflict. Yet, it also forces us to confront the ethical boundaries of warfare, a question that remains relevant even today. How far is too far when the stakes are life and death? The Aztec Machuahuitl was far from your typical sword. It was a weapon of both practicality and profound cultural meaning. Picture a wooden paddle about the length of a man's arm, with edges lined with razor-sharp obsidian blades. These weren't just any blades. Obsidian, a volcanic glass, could be sharper than modern surgical steel. When the Machuahuitl struck, it didn't just cut, it tore through flesh and bone with terrifying precision. The design was ingenious in its simplicity, combining the durability of wood with the lethality of obsidian. But this weapon wasn't just about destruction. It carried deep symbolic weight in Aztec society. To the Aztecs, warfare wasn't just a means of conquest, it was a sacred act, deeply tied to their religious beliefs and the honor of their warriors. The Machuahuitl, often adorned with feathers and intricate carvings, was as much a ceremonial object as it was a tool of war. What made the Machuahuitl so effective was its versatility. Unlike metal swords, which could dull or break, the obsidian blades could be replaced easily, making the weapon surprisingly low maintenance for its time. And while it lacked the piercing power of a steel blade, its slashing ability was unmatched. Historical accounts describe its use in battle as devastating, with some Spanish conquistadors reporting that a single swing could decapitate a horse. Yet, despite its fearsome reputation, the Machuahuitl had limitations. Its wooden frame made it less durable in prolonged combat, and its design required skilled handling to avoid injuring the wielder. Despite these drawbacks, it remained a cornerstone of Aztec warfare, a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability. Beyond its battlefield applications, the Machuahuitl symbolized the Aztec warriors' connection to the gods. In their worldview, war was a sacred duty, and the Machuahuitl was seen as a divine instrument. Warriors who wielded it were not just fighters. They were participants in a cosmic struggle, ensuring the sun would rise each day through their sacrifices. This blend of practicality and spirituality made the Machuahuitl more than just a weapon. It was an extension of the Aztec identity, a reminder of their resilience and their place in the universe. Even today, it stands as a striking example of how ancient civilizations turned the tools of war into expressions of culture and belief. The Viking Berserkers were more than just warriors, they were forces of nature, shrouded in myth and mystery. These fighters were said to enter a trance-like state before battle, a frenzy so intense that it seemed almost supernatural. Imagine the sight, a warrior stripped of armor, charging into combat with no regard for pain or fear, his mind consumed by a primal fury. This wasn't just bravery, it was something far more unsettling. Historians believe this battle rage, known as Berserker Gang, was partly fueled by psychological conditioning and possibly even substances. Some accounts suggest they consumed hallucinogenic mushrooms or strong herbal brews to heighten their aggression and numb their senses. Whether through ritual or chemical means, the berserkers transformed themselves into living weapons, their bodies surging with adrenaline, their minds detached from the horrors of war. The physical toll of such a state was immense. Fighting in this frenzy left them exhausted, often injured, and sometimes unable to distinguish friend from foe. Yet their role in Viking raids was crucial. Berserkers were often at the forefront of attacks, their terrifying presence breaking enemy lines and spreading panic. They were the shock troops of the Viking Age, their reputation alone enough to make opposing forces falter. But what drove these men to such extremes? Some scholars argue it was a combination of cultural expectation and spiritual belief. In Viking society, honor in battle was everything, and dying with a sword in hand was seen as the ultimate glory. The berserkers may have believed their frenzy was a gift from the gods, a divine fury that made them unstoppable. Their legacy is a blend of fact and folklore, but one thing is clear. The berserkers were a testament to the extremes of human endurance and the lengths warriors would go to for victory. Their story reminds us that war, even in ancient times, was as much about psychology as it was about physical strength. And in the chaos of battle, the berserkers were a force unlike any other. The Mongol Composite Bow wasn't just a weapon, it was a masterpiece of engineering that changed the face of warfare forever. Picture this, a bow so compact and lightweight that a rider could carry it effortlessly on horseback, yet so powerful it could launch arrows with deadly precision over astonishing distances. This wasn't your average bow, it was a carefully crafted tool designed for dominance on the battlefield. Its unique design combined layers of wood, bone, and sinew, creating a weapon that was both flexible and incredibly strong. When drawn, it stored immense energy, allowing arrows to fly farther and faster than those from traditional bows. And here's the kicker, it could be fired accurately from a galloping horse, a skill the Mongols perfected to devastating effect. What made this bow truly revolutionary was its range. While most bows of the time could shoot arrows about 200 yards, the Mongol Composite Bow could reach up to 500 yards with remarkable accuracy. This gave Mongol warriors a massive advantage, allowing them to strike enemies from a distance before their opponents could even get close. Imagine being on the receiving end of that, seeing a cloud of arrows raining down from the horizon, knowing there's nowhere to hide. It's no wonder the Mongols were able to conquer vast territories from the steppes of Central Asia to the heart of Europe. Their bows were not just tools of war, they were symbols of their ingenuity and adaptability. But the real secret to the Mongols' success wasn't just the bow itself, it was how they used it. Their entire military strategy revolved around mobility and precision. Mounted archers could ride at full speed, fire a volley of arrows, and retreat before their enemies could react. This hit-and-run tactic kept their opponents off balance, making it nearly impossible to mount a counterattack. The Mongols didn't just fight battles, they played a deadly game of chess, using their bows to control the battlefield and dictate the terms of engagement. It's a strategy that helped them build the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the edges of Eastern Europe. And let's not forget the psychological impact of the Mongol Composite Bow. The sound of arrows whistling through the air, the sight of riders charging across the horizon, it was enough to strike fear into the hearts of even the most hardened soldiers. The Mongols didn't just outfight their enemies, they outthought and outmaneuvered them. Their bows were more than weapons, they were extensions of their culture, their way of life. In the hands of a skilled Mongol warrior, the composite bow wasn't just a tool of conquest, it was a symbol of their unmatched prowess and the key to their enduring legacy. The hoplite shield, known as the Aspis, was far more than just a piece of defensive equipment. It was a symbol of unity, strength, and the very essence of Greek warfare. Shaped like a large circular disc, this shield measured about 3 feet in diameter and was crafted from layers of wood, often reinforced with bronze. But what made it truly remarkable wasn't just its durability. It was how its design revolutionized the way battles were fought. The Aspis was uniquely curved, allowing it to rest comfortably on a soldier's shoulder while leaving his hands free to wield a spear or sword. This curvature also created a natural overlap when soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, forming the iconic phalanx formation. Imagine a wall of shields, each one protecting not just the man holding it, but also the soldier to his left. This interdependence was the backbone of Greek warfare, turning individual fighters into a cohesive, nearly impenetrable unit. But the shield's significance went beyond its physical design. Carrying an aspis was a mark of honor and responsibility. In many Greek city-states, only citizens who could afford their own armor and weapons were allowed to serve as hoplites. The shield then became a symbol of civic duty and pride. It wasn't just about personal survival, it was about protecting the community and upholding the values of the polis. The size and weight of the aspis, while cumbersome, played a critical role in shaping battle tactics. Its heft required soldiers to move in unison, maintaining tight formations that could withstand enemy charges. This disciplined approach to combat gave Greek armies a decisive edge, especially against less organized foes. The shield's design also allowed for innovative maneuvers such as the othismos, or the push, where hoplites would literally shove their enemies back using the combined force of their shields. Beyond its tactical advantages, the aspis carried deep cultural meaning. Many shields were adorned with distinctive emblems, often reflecting the owner's family, city, or personal beliefs. These symbols weren't just decorative, they served as a way to inspire courage and remind soldiers of what they were fighting for. In a sense, the hoplite shield was both a tool of war and a canvas for identity, blending practicality with a profound sense of purpose. The legacy of the aspis extends far beyond its time. Its influence can be seen in the way modern armies approach coordination and teamwork, emphasizing the importance of unity over individual prowess. The hoplite shield wasn't just a piece of equipment. It was a testament to the power of collective strength, a lesson that resonates even today. The Phoenicians, often hailed as the true pioneers of the ancient seas, revolutionized naval warfare with their ingenuity and bold strategies. While other civilizations were still mastering the basics of shipbuilding, the Phoenicians were already crafting vessels that could outmaneuver and outlast their rivals. Their dominance wasn't just about brute force, it was a blend of innovation, precision, and a deep understanding of the sea. At the heart of their success was the trireme, a sleek, fast warship powered by rows of oarsmen. But what truly set the Phoenicians apart was their use of the ramming technique. Instead of relying solely on boarding actions or ranged weapons, they designed their ships with reinforced bows, often tipped with bronze, to crash into enemy vessels. This wasn't just a reckless charge, it was a calculated maneuver. Skilled Phoenician captains would aim for the sides or sterns of opposing ships, puncturing hulls and rendering them immobile. Imagine the chaos, a sudden, deafening impact followed by the sound of splintering wood and the rush of water flooding in. For their enemies, it was a nightmare. For the Phoenicians, it was a well-practiced art. But their prowess didn't stop at ramming. The Phoenicians were also master shipbuilders, using advanced techniques that were centuries ahead of their time. Their ships were not only fast and agile but also remarkably sturdy, thanks to their use of mortise and tenon joints, a method that interlocked wooden planks without the need for nails. This made their vessels more durable and able to withstand the harsh conditions of long sea voyages. Combine that with their ability to navigate using the stars, and you have a fleet that could strike anywhere, anytime. Their maritime dominance wasn't just about warfare, though. The Phoenicians were also unparalleled traders, using their naval expertise to establish a vast network of colonies and trade routes across the Mediterranean. From the shores of modern-day Lebanon to the coasts of Spain and North Africa, their influence was everywhere. Their ships carried everything from purple dye, a luxury item prized by royalty, to cedar wood, glass, and even the alphabet, which they spread throughout the ancient world. What's fascinating is how their naval innovations were intertwined with their cultural identity. The sea wasn't just a battlefield or a trade route for the Phoenicians. It was their lifeline, their greatest asset, and the source of their power. Their ability to adapt and innovate in naval warfare wasn't just a matter of survival. It was a testament to their vision and ambition. And while their empire may have faded into history, their legacy as masters of the ancient seas remains as enduring as the waves they once ruled. The Inca Empire, known for its ingenuity and resourcefulness, perfected the use of two seemingly simple yet devastating weapons, the sling and the bola. These tools, often overshadowed by more elaborate arms, played a crucial role in both hunting and warfare, shaping the Incas' military strategy and their ability to dominate the Andean highlands. Let's take a closer look at how these weapons were crafted, employed, and why they became such a vital part of Inca life. The sling, or huaroca in Quechua, was far more than a rudimentary tool. Made from braided fibers, often from llama or alpaca wool, it was lightweight, easy to carry, and capable of launching stones or clay pellets at incredible speeds. Inca slingers trained from a young age, honing their accuracy and power to the point where they could strike targets over 100 meters away. In battle, these slings weren't just used to harass enemies. They could shatter bones, penetrate armor, and create chaos in enemy ranks. The psychological impact of a barrage of stones raining down from above was often enough to demoralize opposing forces before close combat even began. Equally fascinating were the bolas, a set of weighted cords designed to entangle and immobilize targets. Typically made with stones or metal weights tied to the ends of long ropes, bolas were thrown at the legs of animals or enemies, wrapping around them and bringing them to the ground. This made them incredibly effective for hunting wild game like llamas or guanacos, but they also found their place on the battlefield. Inca warriors would use bolas to disable charging enemies or to disrupt cavalry formations, leveling the playing field against larger, more heavily armored opponents. What made these weapons so remarkable was their integration into the Incas' broader military strategy. The Inca didn't just rely on brute force. They used terrain, surprise, and psychological warfare to their advantage. Slings and bolas were ideal for the rugged mountain landscapes of the Andes, where heavy weaponry would have been impractical. Inca armies could move quickly and strike from a distance, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to ambush enemies or defend key positions. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of these weapons was their cultural significance. For the Inca, the sling and bola were more than tools of war. They were symbols of resourcefulness and adaptability. They reflected a society that thrived in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, turning simple materials into instruments of survival and conquest. And while the Spanish conquest eventually brought an end to the Inca Empire, the legacy of these weapons lives on, a testament to the ingenuity of a civilization that mastered the art of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. The katana, the iconic sword of the samurai, was far more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of honor, skill, and the soul of the warrior who wielded it. Crafted with unparalleled precision, the katana was the result of centuries of metallurgical mastery. Swordsmiths in feudal Japan employed a unique technique called differential hardening, folding the steel repeatedly to create a blade that was both razor-sharp and incredibly resilient. This process wasn't just about functionality. It was an art form, with each katana bearing the mark of its maker, a testament to their dedication and skill. The curve of the blade wasn't merely aesthetic. It allowed for swift, precise strikes, making it devastatingly effective in close combat. But the katana's significance extended far beyond the battlefield. For the samurai, it was a sacred object, often seen as an extension of their own spirit. The sword was a symbol of their social status, a reflection of their loyalty, and a tool for maintaining order in a society that valued duty above all else. Carrying a katana wasn't just about being armed, it was a statement of identity. The samurai code, or bushido, emphasized virtues like discipline, respect, and honor, and the katana embodied these principles. In a sense, the sword was a physical manifestation of the samurai's moral and ethical commitments. On the battlefield, the katana's design made it a formidable weapon. Its sharpness and balance allowed samurai to deliver precise, lethal blows, while its durability ensured it could withstand the rigors of combat. Yet, it wasn't just the sword itself that made the samurai so effective. It was the training and philosophy behind its use. Samurai were taught to wield the katana with both precision and restraint, understanding that its power came with responsibility. This balance between martial skill and ethical discipline is what set the samurai apart, elevating the katana from a mere tool of war to a cultural icon. Even today, the katana continues to captivate people around the world. Its craftsmanship inspires modern bladesmiths, while its symbolism resonates in stories, films, and art. The katana isn't just a relic of the past. It's a timeless reminder of the values and traditions that shaped one of history's most fascinating warrior classes. Whether admired for its beauty, its history, or its enduring legacy, the katana remains a powerful symbol of the samurai spirit. The Celtic chariot warriors were masters of mobility and surprise, wielding their lightweight, two-wheeled chariots with deadly precision on the battlefield. Unlike the heavy war chariots of ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, Celtic chariots were designed for speed and agility, allowing warriors to move swiftly across rough terrain. These chariots were pulled by a pair of horses and carried a driver and a skilled fighter, often armed with javelins, spears, or swords. The combination of speed, maneuverability, and firepower made them a formidable force in ancient Europe, particularly against the disciplined but slower Roman legions. One of the most effective tactics employed by the Celts was the hit-and-run attack. Chariots would charge toward enemy lines at breakneck speed, their warriors hurling javelins or slashing with swords before retreating just as quickly. This strategy not only inflicted casualties but also disrupted the enemy's formation and morale. The Romans, accustomed to orderly, face-to-face combat, often found themselves outmaneuvered and unable to counter these rapid strikes. Even when Roman soldiers managed to close the distance, the charioteers would simply retreat, regrouping for another assault. This relentless cycle of attack and retreat kept the enemy off balance and demonstrated the Celts' deep understanding of psychological warfare. The impact of Celtic chariot tactics on Roman military strategy cannot be overstated. Initially, the Romans struggled to adapt to this unconventional style of warfare. However, over time, they began to incorporate elements of the Celts' approach into their own tactics. For instance, the Romans recognized the value of mobility and started using lighter cavalry units to counter similar threats. The experience of fighting against Celtic chariots also influenced Roman engineering. leading to the development of more versatile siege engines and fortifications designed to withstand swift, unpredictable attacks. Beyond their military effectiveness, Celtic chariots also held cultural significance. They were often used in ceremonial displays and symbolized the status and prowess of their warriors. The chariot itself became an emblem of power, appearing in artwork and legends across Celtic Europe. This blend of practicality and symbolism highlights the ingenuity of the Celts, who turned a simple mode of transportation into a weapon that reshaped the battlefield and left a lasting legacy on ancient warfare. The story of the Celtic chariot warriors is a testament to the power of innovation and adaptability in the face of overwhelming odds. Their ability to outthink and outmaneuver one of the most formidable armies of the ancient world speaks to their resourcefulness and tactical brilliance. As we explore these ancient strategies, it's impossible not to marvel at how a single invention, the chariot, could change the course of history and influence the evolution of warfare for centuries to come. The echoes of ancient warfare still resonate in the strategies and technologies of modern militaries. Those seemingly strange tactics and weapons, born out of necessity and ingenuity, laid the groundwork for principles that remain vital today. Take, for example, Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Written over 2,000 years ago, its teachings on deception, adaptability, and understanding the enemy have transcended time, influencing not just military leaders but also business executives, athletes, and even politicians. Sun Tzu famously wrote, "All warfare is based on deception," a concept that finds its way into everything from modern cyber warfare to psychological operations designed to outmaneuver adversaries. But it's not just the philosophies that endure. The physical tools of ancient warfare have evolved into the high-tech arsenals we see today. The battering ram, once a simple log used to break down gates, is now mirrored in the precision of breaching explosives. Catapults and trebuchets, which launched stones and fire over castle walls, have given way to missile systems capable of striking targets thousands of miles away. Even the use of fire as a weapon, a tactic employed by ancient armies to scatter and demoralize enemies, has been refined into incendiary bombs and flamethrowers. What's fascinating is how these ancient innovations were often born out of limited resources. Facing overwhelming odds, ancient commanders had to think creatively, turning everyday materials into tools of war. This spirit of innovation is still alive today, as modern militaries constantly adapt to new challenges, whether it's developing drone technology or creating countermeasures for cyberattacks. The lessons of ancient warfare remind us that strategy and resourcefulness often outweigh sheer force. And then there's the psychological aspect. Ancient armies understood the power of fear and intimidation, using everything from war drums to elaborate displays of strength to unnerve their opponents. Today, psychological warfare remains a cornerstone of military strategy, from the use of propaganda to the deployment of loudspeaker systems that disorient and confuse enemy troops. The principles haven't changed, only the methods have evolved. Perhaps the most enduring lesson from ancient warfare is the importance of adaptability. Whether it was the Roman legions adjusting their formations to counter cavalry charges, or the Mongols using hit-and-run tactics to outmaneuver larger forces, the ability to adapt was key to survival. In today's world, where conflicts can shift from physical battlefields to digital ones in an instant, that same flexibility is more crucial than ever. So, while the weapons and tactics may have changed, the core principles of ancient warfare continue to shape how we approach conflict. From the battlefields of antiquity to the modern era, the legacy of these strategies serves as a reminder that innovation, adaptability, and understanding the human element are timeless tools of victory. As we wrap up this journey through the strange and ingenious world of ancient warfare, it's impossible not to marvel at the creativity and resourcefulness of our ancestors. From the deceptive brilliance of the Trojan horse to the psychological terror of war elephants and the precision of Greek fire, these tactics and weapons weren't just tools of destruction, they were masterpieces of strategy and innovation. Each civilization brought its own unique perspective to the battlefield, crafting solutions that were as diverse as the cultures themselves. What's truly remarkable is how these ancient methods continue to echo in modern military thought. The principles of deception, adaptability, and psychological warfare that defined ancient battles are still studied and applied today. They remind us that warfare, at its core, is as much about outthinking your opponent as it is about overpowering them. These lessons from the past aren't just historical curiosities, they're timeless insights into human ingenuity under pressure. But beyond their strategic value, these stories also offer a window into the cultures that created them. They reveal how people of the past viewed the world, solved problems, and pushed the boundaries of what was possible. In a way, these strange tactics and weapons are a testament to humanity's endless capacity for invention, even in the face of conflict. If this exploration has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to dive deeper into this fascinating topic. History is full of untold stories and unexpected connections, and there's so much more to discover. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What ancient tactic or weapon surprised you the most? What lessons do you think we can still learn from these ancient strategies? Let's keep the conversation going, because history isn't just about looking back, it's about understanding the present and shaping the future. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the art of war in ancient times. Until next time, stay curious.